What's up, everyone? I'm going to go over this project I did a few months ago called Vision Watch, right? And it's an OCR program that uses OpenCV and Tesseract to detect wins and losses in a Watch 2. And then we'll update a text file that can be used through OBS for live streaming or for individual use. You don't have to be a live streamer, right? So, I'll go over the README, and then we'll go into the actual Python files, okay? So, this program is meant to track and update a win-loss record in Overwatch 2. Overwatch 2 is just a free-to-play game if you're unfamiliar with it. And so we track and update a win-loss record using optical character recognition with both OpenCV and Tesseract. At a high level, this is what the flow of the program is like. We take a 1920 by 1080 screenshot using PyAuto GUI. We then pre-process a screenshot using OpenCV, then we pass it to Tesseract. Tesseract will try to detect text in the image. The string is either victory or defeat, or if the output string is close enough to those words using a Levenstein distance to determine if it's close enough, then the record will be updated appropriately by writing to a text file. And then we repeat the process continually. So this is what it looks like, right, in action. We're taking screenshots right continually. I have to check in the code later, but I forget how often I do. I think it's like every 0.5 seconds or something we take a screenshot. See, we detected victory because the win counter, it goes up by 1. Right down here, we have defeat. You can see the loss counter goes up by 1. Okay, and this is the output logs. For both of these videos here, you can see, like, when we detect text, it's not always perfect, right? We're not always going to get victory. We're going to get some jumbled form, right? Because OCR is not perfect. Tesseract is not perfect, right? And there's a few reasons for that, especially in this case, right? Because the problem with Tesseract here is that, right, we're going to take a screenshot, right? And obviously this is color in a very strange way, but that's just to make the text stand out. And then we're going to crop it, right? And we're going to apply different things to the image, right? But the reason Tesseract is not perfect is because, well, for one, you can see with the Overwatch font, it's very stylized, right, for the game. And it's also slanted, right? For example, this D in defeat might be misconstrued as a 0 by the computer. So even though you can look at this and go, yeah, that looks like defeat, a computer might not detect all the text perfectly, right? Because it's stylized. And additionally, there's stuff going on in the background that might interfere with the text detection, right? So this program isn't perfect, right? But and that's mostly because Tesseract is not perfect when you have so much going on screen, which is why the cropping part is also very important. Okay. So what is the purpose of this? Well, if someone's a live streamer or simply a player, right, maybe they want to track their win-losses, but if they're updating it manually, they might forget if they updated the previous win or loss from the game before, right? So this is basically a way to automate the process so you don't come across that type of scenario where, you know, let's say your record is 7-5, right? You win a game and you forget, oh, wait, did I update the previous loss or win to the record? Right? Because sometimes people don't do that, right? Like, if you've seen someone keeping track of a win-loss record, right? People sometimes forget, because they're distracted. So now let's talk about why I use Python, right? Because I did use C++ initially for this project. And the reason I use C++ initially is because I actually talked to a recruiter at Blizzard. Blizzard is the, obviously, company, well, it's a subsidiary of Activision, but it is a company that made Overwatch. And I talked to a recruiter from the Overwatch team, and he told me that they primarily use C++, right? And I have some screenshots down here that I'll get into in a bit. But so I used C++ and Tesseract together. But the issue with that is that you have to download the entire OCR engine using a package manager if you use the C++ version of Tesseract. and then you have to link it to Visual Studio, right? Like the DLLs and all this and that, and it just gets really complicated because it's just tedious finding resources when you get stuck. Additionally, the issue also is that you know, the issue also is I had to think of the end user, right? If I'm making this project in C++, I'm not necessarily going to expect my end user to download the program, download, Tesseract through a package manager, link it to Visual Studio, run the program, right? Like, this is just getting way too complicated. It's not practical or user-friendly. And the Python approach actually is a little bit more practical and user-friendly because you go to UB Mannheim here, right? And they have a bunch of binary files for Tesseract, right? And basically use the binary files provided by UB Mannheim. And I think their use case is a little bit different. Like they use it for German research papers or something to detect text like that. But they basically provide binary files so that you don't have to download the entire OCR engine. It's not that much of a nightmare to work with the files they provide. So this is a resource I used. Okay. And I use PyTesseract, right? In addition with those binary files. And it's much more simple. That's why I switched over to Python. Here's the conversation I had with the recruiter at Blizzard. And this recruiter, again, was on the Overwatch team specifically. Right? He says that, they use C and C++. I think he's just talking about the general games industry here. But then obviously he says on the Overwatch team specifically, they're heavy on C++, which is not surprising. A lot of AAA studios use C++ heavily, right? Because they write their own proprietary game engines. And this is just some stuff he said to help make you stand out, right? The Blizzard has their own proprietary engine, which is very similar to Unreal Engine, which is why he recommended to, brush up on and learn Unreal Engine because it's very similar to their own proprietary engine. Anyways, moving on. Now, inspiration for this project. I actually got inspiration to do this project from a few different sources, right? One is that I came across, and if you don't know what OBS is, it's an open broadcaster software, right? So you can live stream, which is how I'm recording this video. But the way I got inspiration for this project, right, Vision Watch, was I came across this interesting project called Elden Ring AI, right? And it's this, I don't know who the developer is exactly, but this person made an AI to fight the Tree Sentinel, right? I'm not sure if I didn't include a video because just a screenshot, but the reason I only included the screenshot is because the only thing that I took inspiration from this project specifically was the attempts, right? He had an automated counter for the attempts, as you can see. And so I knew that I could update on OBS automatically, right? Doing something like this. Okay. Another project was this Dark Souls death counter, right? Where they detect text on the screen and then they update this death counter here, right? And so I did this combination for my project where I have detect the win and loss and update a counter. But on top of that, I not just update a counter, but update a counter on OBS on screen. So that's how I combine the inspiration from these two projects. Okay. And again, I will go here and I will go here just to show these projects, right? So this person made an AI to fight this Tree Sentinel in Elden Ring, right? And so yeah, he had a counter on screen that automatically updated. And then this is the death counter OCR. Yeah, this person also used this UB Mannheim thing. I think this is where I switched over to Python. This project uses, I took a lot of inspiration from this project in terms of the tools I used because it's very streamlined and much easier than working with C++. And you can try C++ if you want yourself using Tesseract with it, but I'm telling you, it is a lot of overhead. But anyways, yeah. Basically, this project, I took inspiration from basically just updating a record on screen on OBS. In this project, I took inspiration by updating the counter automatically using OCR. Okay. And so, yeah, this is basically the same as I showed the flow of the project up here. This section here is the same, right? We basically just do an image acquisition, we manipulate the image, then we obtain the relevant information using Tesseract, and then we make a decision, right? Now, this project does have a few limitations, which is, well, first of all, it's not 100% accurate, right? And that goes without saying because Tesseract isn't perfect. And as I said, Overwatch has a stylized custom font that adds a lot of problems as well as that there's an animation for the victory and defeat screens, right? For example, as you can see, like, see how there's this animation here? If we take a screenshot at any point during the animation, we might not get perfect text. Although I tried to minimize that by taking screenshots relatively quickly, one after another, so we don't wait too long. Okay. Now, number two, a user can use different resolutions. They would have to change the crop configurations of my program if they want to use a different resolutions, right? And that might also introduce other problems which they would have to fix. I also used a dual monitor setup, and that's what I tested on. If someone has more than 2 monitors, they might have some issues with that, that they'd have to figure out. Additionally, I play games in English, right? Tesseract can detect text in other languages, but they would have to configure the program for other languages. Another point, which is part of what makes this project particularly tricky, is we're detecting 2 different possible conditions rather than only one. So it goes without saying, when we add more conditions, the program gets ever more complex and imperfect, right? And what I mean by that is we're detecting, well, technically 3 conditions, right? We can have victory, we can have defeat, or we can have nothing. And technically the game you used to be able to have draws, but it's very uncommon just because of the way the game has changed over the years. It's very hard to get draws nowadays, but that is a condition that's theoretically possible, though it's very difficult. So I didn't even include that as a condition because, again, it just adds more overhead, and I just don't want more overhead. Because what if you have something that detects the letter D only, right? Is that a draw, a defeat? I mean, who knows, right? So again, draws are, I don't want to say they're impossible, but they're virtually impossible. So I don't include draws as a possible condition. When conditions are detected, the program will sleep for 5 minutes to avoid false positives. As it's unlikely you'll find another game within that time frame, as well as finish that game within 5 minutes, right? The problem with this, however, is if you have a false positive trigger to begin with, you won't have the program work for 5 minutes, so you need to stop and rerun the program. So what I mean by that is, if we detect victory, right, we're going to put a sleep timer, so we stop taking screenshots for 5 minutes, because we don't want to update the record in 5 minutes. Because that would be a false positive for sure, because we're not going to get a game and finish it in the next 5 minutes. But what if we get a false positive to begin with? Well, all of a sudden you're locked out of the program for 5 minutes, right? And so that is a false positive can introduce some problems. As well as, here's another thing I noticed is if you have a nighttime map that you're playing on, because in Overwatch 2, the maps change, right? Some maps are in daytime, some maps are in nighttime. If you have a nighttime map, it actually does mess with the detection a little bit. I've noticed that in some of my testing. So that is a problem sometimes. And this is not too seriously of a limitation, but it's not impossible. This is what I was saying about a draw. The new clash mode, which is similar. Okay, so the clash mode did come out. I'm not sure if it's possible to get a draw in the clash mode. It's a new game mode that came out a little bit ago. I don't think you can get a draw, but maybe you can. I've played it a few times. I have not gotten a draw on it though. This is just the setup, right? What you have to pip install. Right, setting your file paths and stuff. So yeah, this is the versions of what I used. Okay. So yeah, it's a pretty simple program. Well, it's not. Well, it was a lot of work to get it to work, but relatively speaking, it's very simple. I'm gonna go over these really quickly, and I mean really quickly because I don't want this video to be too long, right? So here we have the main function, right? This is our record, right? The text file. And basically, we're gonna we enter the main program. We have this infinite while loop, right? And we take a screenshot, right? And this is an object from this this class. And if we detect victory, right, we add the win. Then we sleep for 5 minutes. Otherwise, we keep taking screenshots, right, every 0.2 seconds. Okay. So yeah, I think this is pretty self-explanatory. It's not that complicated in terms of code. This is how the OBS logger works, which is the text file, right? Basically how we update it, how we add the wins and stuff, how we get the wins, etc., etc. Okay, pretty simple. You can read this up here, right? You can read this up here. I did write class definitions or class, I don't know what you call them, comments, to explain what the class does. Now this is really where the bulk of the work goes on, okay? So this is the OCR strings, right? Possible outcomes we can have. The reason I included one with the exclamation point, one without, is because in the game you have an exclamation point for victory, but not for defeat, which is a little bit interesting. But maybe we detect victory with an exclamation point, right? That should be valid, which is why I included both of these. Levenstein distance of 4, right? Some comments about the crop configuration, right? Some other comments. You can pause and read that. So debug mode. The way debug mode is, the reason I have debug mode is because when I was continually running the program, right, over time, and so I wanted basically a way to turn on debug mode so that I can test things manually. But it's off right now because this is what it should run like, right, without any, like for example, when you take a screenshot, I want those images to pop up as I run the program so I can view them live without going into my folder and clicking on them, right? But with debug mode off, those images don't pop up, right? The program just runs. Okay. So yeah, this is basically the program, right? We're taking screenshots. We're doing some inversions, some grayscales, some binarizing, some inverting again. Don't ask me why I did it in this order. I just found that's what gives me the most accurate detection based on just trial and error and playing around with the program. So this is basically the sequence of pre-processing that I came up with that I found to be most successful. Okay, then here's some of the functionality for, you know, capturing the screenshot, cropping, etc. Right? And these are the functions of how I inverted and did all this other stuff. Okay? So yeah, that's basically the program. Don't think I want to go too much more into it just because I don't think it's that complicated. All that being said, but yeah, here's a screenshot. Really though, there are limitations though to this program, right? It's not perfect, as I said, right? Nighttime maps, imperfect detection due to fonts and things like that. False positives, which is really a pain. And these things are hard to solve also because, like I said, OCR is not perfect. But it was an interesting learning experience. But yeah, anyways, I hope you found it useful and helpful. And yeah, I did this all in a custom mode, by the way. Just easier to get the victory screen to pop up when I kill one bot, or a bot kills one of my bot teammates and the game ends right away. But anyways, I hope this helped in terms of giving you some insight, and I hope you found it interesting. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.